Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaskar. Yesterday, I did an editorial on the UN Security Council. In my editorial, I said, and actually I referred to an article of First Post, where the article said that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru did not really refuse the UN Security Council seat. Now that said, I got a lot of response, lot of queries. Some of them queries who really wanted to know. They asked me, a lot of them asked me, okay, bhai, how can I just quote First Post? Is First Post it? And okay, First Post can be wrong. How can First Post be the gospel truth and all of that? Okay, so it's not just the First Post. It is also the Hindu that had written about it. And the Hindu had not only written about it lately, but the Hindu also had written about it in 1955 when this incident happened. And we've got actual newspaper cutting of Hindu of 1955 when they wrote about it. So that's that. And so what First Post actually did is just narrate what was written in Hindu and just narrate what was written at that point in time. So First Post didn't cook up anything. They did exactly what was written and what was said in the parliament at that point in time. Now, so that being clear, now let us get to the bottom of this. Today, I want to talk to you purely on that particular incident, on that particular myth, and today I call it a myth. That particular myth that has been created in this country that Jawaharlal Nehru said no to the UN Council seat. Let me tell you, that's a myth, and I will tell you why. First and foremost is, this entire thing started with this quote that Jawaharlal Nehru had made on the 27th of September 1955. He was answering to a question raised by Dr. J.N. Parekh, asking him as to whether he rejected the UN Security Council seat, to which he said that there has been no offer, formal or informal, of this kind. Some vague references have appeared in the press about it, which have no foundation in fact. The composition of Security Council is prescribed by the UN Charter, according to which certain specified nations have permanent seats. No change or additions can be made to this without an amendment in the Charter. There is therefore no question of a seat being offered and India declining it. Our declared policy is to support the admission of all nations qualified for UN membership. I read this same statement yesterday. I am reading it again, wherein Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru says, I have not declined any offer because no offer has been made to me. It is a figment of imagination. It is printed wrong. It is fake news. No offer has been made to me. I stand by the Indian foreign policy where if a nation who is qualified to be a permanent member of the UN Security Council, we will not go against it. We will not oppose it. This has been an Indian policy and I adhere to it. Furthermore, he also adds that in case India has to be incorporated into the permanent UN Security Council seat, then there has to be an amendment in the Charter. And that amendment has not happened. So there has been absolutely no offer to me, and therefore there is no way I have declined anything. Now, to this, I got a lot of queries, a lot of questions from you. And one of the questions that a lot of you all asked me is referring to an article that published in the Wire. Wire had published an article yesterday, I think day before yesterday, where they had said that there was a conversation with the Russian Premier, Mr. Nikolai Bulganin, in 1955, where Mr. Bulganin wrote to Nehru asking him whether he is seriously taking this offer up, and Nehru said, no, I don't want to take it. That was printed in Wire, and they said, listen, it is what I said is contradicting to what was printed in Wire. For starters, I completely agree to what Wire is saying. I completely agree to this article in Wire. Yes, there was an exchange of documents, exchange of letter between the Premier of USSR, Mr. Nikolai Bulganin. He was a premier from 1955 to 1958, and this letter was written to Nehru in 1955. Yes, that was a fact, and Nehru had answered it. But for starters, let us first understand the context in which this letter was written. In the 1950s, the first time Dr. Vijayalakshmi Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's sister, who was then the ambassador in the United States, had hinted to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru that the United States is keen on offering India a seat in the UN Security Council. In 1955, they say that this offer was more concretized. The United States wanted to replace China's candidature with India's candidature. Now, there are two problems to this. The problem number one. You see, what happens is, United Nations doesn't work like the US Senate. US of A cannot pull a nation out and put a nation in and all of that. It cannot happen. So what really happens in this case is United Nations, if they want to pull somebody out or put somebody in, has to change the UN Charter. It was very, very distinctively clear that United States A didn't have the authority to put India into the UNSC. A, and B, it was also very clear that this was a mischief that United States was trying to create in the Asian subcontinent between India and China. USA wanted to create a problem between India and China. Because imagine, had Nehru agreed to this proposal, which A would have never fructified because United States didn't have the authority. B, if he would have agreed, there would have been a conflict between India and China. And that too in 1955, 8 years after our independence. Just 8 years after our independence. Imagine the number of wars that we would have had to fight from 1955 to 2014 with China. This region would have been turned into a war zone. So that's precisely why when a letter, now I am coming back to the Wire article where they spoke about a communication between Nikolai Bulganin, who is the premier, again I am saying Nikolai Bulganin, the premier of Soviet Russia, those days USSR, when he wrote to Nehru, and I just read this conversation. Bulganin writes, regarding your suggestion about the four-power conference, we would take appropriate action. While we are discussing the general international situation and reducing tension, we propose suggesting at a later stage India's inclusion as the sixth member of the Security Council. So, Russia did not offer us anything. Russia said that we know that there is a discussion going on, that you guys may be interested in the Security Council, but in a future date we will propose you as the sixth nation. Mind you, they didn't say that they are going to remove China and put India. They said we will propose you as the sixth nation. But are you interested? Jawaharlal very well knew that this, if he says yes, would be actually saying that he agrees to what United States proposed, remove China and come in India. He knew that this would be dangerous for India, and he writes back, and here this is what he wrote. He said, perhaps Bulganin knows that some people in USA have suggested that India should replace China in the Security Council. This is to create trouble between us and China. We are, of course, wholly opposed to it. Further, we are opposed to pushing ourselves forward to occupy certain position because that may itself create difficulties and India might itself become a subject of controversy. If India is to be admitted to the Security Council, it raises the question of the revision of the Charter of UN. We feel that this should not be done till the question of China's admission and possibly others is first solved. I feel that we should first concentrate on getting China admitted. What is Bulganin's opinion about the revision of the Charter? In our opinion, this does not seem to be an appropriate time for it. To which Balgnan replied, saying, "We propose the question of India's membership of Security Council to get your views, but agree that this is not the time for it and it will have to wait for the right moment later on. We also agree that things should be taken one by one." So this was not a proposal of USSR. USSR was just testing waters. And Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru very clearly knew that he didn't want to fall into the US trap, going over enthusiastically and saying, yes, we want to be the member, where he clearly knew that just by United States offering it, he would not get the membership. Now, to just conclude, it is a very simple story. You see, if an MP comes to you and says, my dear friend, you know what? That Modi, why don't you replace Modi? You become the next Prime Minister of India. If an MP comes to you and asks you, what would be your first response? Your first response would be to say that, you will say here, are you mad? Are you for real? What are you talking about? You would say, Baba, I don't want this. Let Modi do his work. I will do mine. Because Mr. MP, how can you alone make me the Prime Minister? You need 545 MPs to make me a Prime Minister. At least 272 MPs to make me a Prime Minister. How can you make me a Prime Minister? Number one. Number two, he'll say, I don't want to do it, Baba. Why should I take panga with, I would go and say, I want to be a Prime Minister. I will be a laughing stock. This is exactly what Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru did. US of A gave a mischievous offer to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, saying that ek kaam karo, you remove China and you become the Security Council member. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru very well knew that America couldn't make this happen. But had he agreed to this offer, there would have been tensions between India and China, which is exactly what the Americans wanted. So he refused. He didn't refuse the offer of a Security Council membership. He refused to a flawed, mischievous proposal from United States of America. Possibly, today we are a stable economy and a stable country because of that decision. Namaskar. HW News Network today is a year and a half old. Thanks to your support, thanks to your love, we've grown. We require your support a little more. What we request you to do is to download our free app. Our app is in Hindi, English and Marathi. We promise to update you with the latest news, views, analysis, interview. We also have a live TV going in that. If you download our app, we will get advertisers. And if we get advertisers, we'll get revenue. We get revenue, we can serve you better. So once again, please do support us. Please download our app. Namaskar.